Hi, this video is aimed at showing you how to get this componentized 3D model to look like a kind of workshop diagram. So this is the kind of finished article where we're showing, you know, in a bit more clarity how the build-up of the objects and where they connect and how they join together, and annotating if we want to. There's also a composite view on here to show the kind of finished form, not the whole view though. So if I zoom in just a bit closer, just want to show you the glazing panels here. So these are drawn. These are a printing without any hidden line, so it looks more glass-like. Okay, but when we come over to the other objects, these are looking more solid. We're employing hidden line removal on these, so they look more 3D-like. Okay, so back in the AutoCAD drawing, you know, it wouldn't be that, you know, difficult to kind of rearrange the model, you know, so things were pushed back, and you know, kind of do this kind of setup to show the breakdown of the objects. But the problem is everything has to be then printed using the same method. We couldn't have these showing as hidden line and these not. You can't kind of mix them up if you're just printing from one viewport. Okay, so what I'm going to show is how you set it up with multiple viewports, and you can then control the method of printing, what's called the shade plot setting, for each viewport. Okay, so first step is setting up a layout. Okay, so we'll just go through the motions there. Page setup, modify. Okay, we'll go for a big piece of paper. Okay, now I'm going to use DWG to PDF because it's in every version of AutoCAD, and piece of paper I'll use an ISO A1. Okay, it'll be a layout, plot scale 1:1. We'll put a CTB file on just at the moment, and we'll then tweak that later on. Okay, landscape orientation. Okay. Okay, now we'll also need a viewports layer, which we haven't got here. So I'll create a layer for viewports. Let's use caps, keep it the same. Viewports, and also something for the notes. So let's have a notes layer as well. Okay, I'll make the notes layer. Just want the one layer selected if you don't mind. I'll make the notes layer is white, that's okay. And the viewports layer, let's make that a bit more distinctive colour. And the viewports layer wants to be non-printing. So hit the wee printer there. Okay, it's given us a viewport to start off with, so we'll put that onto the viewports layer. Okay, I'm going to move that into the bottom corner. I'll switch ortho off, switch neo snaps off just now. So I'm putting it into the bottom corner of the page, and I'm going to make it about a quarter of the size of the A1. Okay, roughly a quarter of the size. Okay, because things are going to kind of break down away from this corner. Okay, now we'll go into that view, and just so people can kind of do this kind of consistently, there is a command called viewpoint. Okay, and it lets you decide, you know, how the kind of isometric appearing view will work. So I'm going to go for a viewpoint that's 225, and then from the XY plane 20. Okay, so we know now if we mess up a view, we can kind of bring it back consistently. So it's the columns that we're interested in this view. Okay, so what we do is we use a command called VP layer. VP layer. Okay, VP layer. I want to freeze all the layers. So a star and return twice. Return 3 times actually, sorry. Return 3 times. Okay, let's get rid of the grid. Okay, and I'm just going to bring back just one layer in that viewport now. So you see here the third column, this is frozen in a viewport. Okay, it's not frozen in the model, still everything visible, but it's only in this viewport are all the layers frozen. Okay, so I'll bring back the column layer. Okay, and you can see I've got a bit of slack here. I can make this a wee bit bigger, so Z and return twice, and that gives you a much smoother zoom. Pan that a wee bit. Okay, so I think about there. Zoom again, a bit bigger. Bigger means clearer. Okay, double click outside, and that's our first viewport set up. Okay, so what we want to do now is establish the angle that we can copy this viewport away at. So I'll just demonstrate what we're going to do. We're going to copy the viewport. Okay, and in the second viewport we swap the layers over. Okay, but that's a bit random. Okay, better if we set up the angle for the moving and then set the coordinate system to line up with that. Okay, I'm going to create another layer, actually, third layer, before I forget, and call it Connect. I'm going to make this red. Okay, and I'll give it a different line type. I want to use the hidden line type, so I'm going to load that in. So hidden line type. Okay, and use that. Okay, so we're hidden for that one, and maybe make that the current layer. Okay, so let's zoom in much closer on the bottom of the column now. Okay, and even though this is in model space, we can draw on top of it. Okay, so just using a normal line, put some object snaps on. Just don't think I need center on node. Endpoint and midpoint should be sufficient. Okay, so I'm just trying to find a line that goes through the middle of the column. Okay, so that's effectively my kind of direction line for moving the objects backwards. So don't need that, don't need that, and we can now align this the coordinate system to this line. So the UCS command, so it's UCS return, pick an object, and it will be picking near the top end of this line. Okay, so you see now the bottom of the triangle there is in line with this. Now that UCS is unnamed at the moment, so better to give it a name. So it's UCS, enter, S for save, doesn't show up as on one of the options. Okay, and we'll call this angle. Okay, so we've got a UCS that we can come back to. So we've got world or angle. Okay. Now we'll use this line again, so we'll not delete it. Okay. And now what we'll do is copy this viewport. So CP, enter, pick the viewport, enter. Base point can be anywhere, and we don't know how far to move it yet, but we do want to move it with ortho on. Okay, so we're sliding in the same direction as the drawing. Okay, so let's put this a wee bit further away and enter to stop. Okay, so now we go into the new viewport, and we turn off the columns and switch on different layers. Okay, so the columns get switched off. Okay, but we want, in this one, we're going to show the arms and the cables. Okay, now this is a bit snug here, so I think we need to move this viewport further back in the drawing. I don't think that's really going to work there. It could, but let's just move it. So this is one of the other reasons for doing it this way. You've got kind of flexibility. You can try out different distances without impacting. That's better. We've kind of cleared the object better. Okay. So we want to copy again. So each time we're moving back, we're showing and hiding different objects. Okay. I don't think I need to move this one as far. Okay. And this one's going to be the connectors. Okay, so the cable and the arms go off, and on comes the bolts, the bosses, and the discs. Now you see nothing's showing up, okay, because they've been inserted on layer 0, so I need to thaw that layer as well. So that will vary, people might have inserted things on different layers, but watch out for that, because that's kind of like the governing layer for those blocks. Okay, double click outside. Now we've got a bit of overlap happening here, but there is a possibility of getting these connectors just kind of showing underneath the trusses. So I'm going to move these back a bit further and see what we get. Okay, let's go again, see if we can move it. It's still all visible. That's maybe a bit close, I think, though. Let's just undo that. And I think a tiny bit further backwards. I think that's probably okay. We've got a bit of a clash there. So do we try and just avoid that clash? I think we can just a tiny little sneak. Yeah, so all the connectors are visible and they're not too far away from the trusses, so when we put the connection arrows in, things are going to look okay. Okay, and then at the very back of the construction we've got the glazing. Okay, so in this last one, all I need to do here is freeze layer 0 and put back on the glass. I'm not going to put the mastic on, okay, because that's going to kind of make the glass look less glassy, so I'm going to leave the mastic off. You can see on this viewport it's just clipping the very top of the glass there, so we need the viewport, this back one, to be a little bit bigger. So double click outside, we need to go back to the world coordinate system, and then we can adjust the height of the viewport. Okay, maybe just a little bit down here so it's a bit bigger. Okay, maybe a bit too much of an overlap happening here. I think we'll move this viewport back a bit more. Okay, so back to the angle UCS so that we slide in the direction of the construction. Okay, so we're moving it. Okay, I'll just avoid the overlap. Let's go a little bit further. That's not looking too bad. Okay, we've got a nice kind of separation of the layers of the construction there. A little bit of overlap of the connectors there, which is passable. Okay, there's also a large kind of truss beam affair that goes above, so instead of copying a viewport on the angle UCS, we just copy it on the normal UCS, on the world one. So bring this up, okay, and in this viewport we don't want to see the columns, but we do want to see the beam. Okay, the beam must be on a holding layer as well, more than likely layer 0. There it is. Okay, now if we use -P, okay, command code -P, we can, with ortho on, we can bring the beam down. Now I've got a clash here, so I'm going to put it back up a bit further. Actually, where it was okay, and we'll need to take the viewport up to help with that. Just don't want it overlapping too much. So if we refer back to here, okay, you can see the beam is not clashing, it's not overlapping these. We've got an overlap of the glazing and the connectors, but everything else is okay. Okay, so that's our setup, and then all we need to do is add the connections that we want. Okay, so back to the angle UCS, and I can make this line much longer. Okay, let's get a really long version of this line that we can use. Okay, and I'm initially going to move this line from its end point to the insertion point of this connector, and so then it should pass through the arm there, okay, and then you'll see it go through where it hits the glass. So remove this line, enter, okay, add insertion point to your object snaps. I'm going to take off midpoint. Okay, so I want to go from endpoint here to the insertion point of that connector. Okay, I can then extend it, and I'll take it just a bit through the glass so you can see where it would hit the glazed object. Okay, then copy that from the insertion point to insertion point to insertion point. Okay, the middle connector does go all the way back to the column, so I'm going to break it at this point, okay, and take away this part of the line. Okay, these two connectors hit the truss though. Okay, so what we want to do is get the other direction line. Okay, this will help us when we trim things. So all we need to do is trace over part of the drawing again. Okay, so I want the line, a normal line. Okay, switch ortho off. It's going to go from endpoint here to, let's make it fairly big, endpoint there. Okay. Oh, that's on the wrong layer. That should be on connect. And my current layer should be connect. Okay, I can move that now and use this to help me with trimming. So I'll put it about here and use it to trim off these two lines. Okay, I'll hang on to that just now. I can use it again. So I'm just going to take it away just temporarily. Okay, so that shows how the connections work in that direction. Vertically, we want to show that the columns, that the beam at the top sits on top of the columns. So put UCS back to world and just draw a line across the column. Okay, and we could use the middle of that line to give us a point and take a line upwards. So a line from mid there, so that's basically in the middle of the column, or is it actually? Let's try it. Let's do what we did before. So end point there, and then midpoint to midpoint, and a line from this midpoint. Yeah, that looks a bit more central, doesn't it? Okay, so that's kind of implying the center of the column. Ortho's on, and extend that up, and all we do is just kind of let it. Okay, it's not going to be visible where it actually touches the structure there, so we just leave it short. Okay, and then can copy that to the other two columns. Okay, we've got use a base point that you can find on the other objects. Okay, that looks like it's kind of the direction of connection there. The glass, a wee bit trickier. Okay, so this hangs from the back of the beam. Okay, so let's take a line up from here, quite a long line. Okay, and copy that to the other side. Okay, so I want to copy. Okay, from endpoint to endpoint. Okay, copy it again from the top end this time to the corner of the structure. Okay, we'll find that same place at the other side. Okay, so we're going to do kind of like a staggered connection here, and it really depends on how much space we've got at this side. So if we copy this long line, okay, so that's going to work okay. That looks good. I'm going to leave the line in that position and just fillet those two together. Okay, copy that. Okay, we could go from endpoint the endpoint, and then fillet those. Does that make sense? We're kind of connecting at this point, connecting at this point. Have a look here. We could tidy up the connection line here. If we break it, so all snaps off. Okay, we wouldn't see the line at that point. We wouldn't see the line here, and we wouldn't see it when it goes through there. So we're just kind of implying the connection running through and keeping the visibility going. Okay, and so any more connections you could think of, you could put on. So I've kept it quite simple there. Okay, and lastly, a final viewport that has got all the layers on. So go into that, VP layer, enter, Thor, star, enter, enter, enter. So everything's on. Okay, I'm keeping it the same size. Okay, now I maybe don't need those base layers. We've got some we've got base there and ground and floor. I'll take those off. Okay, double click, and so I want to keep the same scale as the main views. Okay, but I just don't want to see the whole thing. Okay, so let's say we want to show just two trusses. Okay, and I'm looking for a space on the drawing for that. Okay, plenty of space down here. Okay, maybe I could line these up. It's very easy to do. Just draw a line, put O snaps on and ortho on. Just draw a line from the corner. Okay, and then this viewport, so you're moving the viewport from endpoint to perpendicular. Perpendicular. Okay, so we've kind of got the glass and the objects in line there. I'll give that a bit of space. And looking at the space here and the space there, they look about the same. Right. Now, I'm not quite finished yet because we've got the printing issue to deal with. Okay, that line's not needed now. Okay, and this is how we decide which viewports get hidden views, which viewports get shaded, etc. So let's mix things up a wee bit here. Okay, so use the MV command, make view. We want the shade plot setting, and I want to use hidden line. Okay, I'm going to use that for the viewport, these two viewports, and this one, and also the one with the beam in. Okay, so I've selected the viewports that are going to get hidden line. Okay, the glass is going to be left as it is, so we see all the lines. Okay, but let's just do a demo on this front one. We'll put this one to a shaded view. So it's MV again, shade plot. Okay, we can choose all sorts of visual styles, so you can go into visual styles, and maybe I want to use X-ray on that. Okay, sketchy's a nice one. Okay, so X-ray, it's asking me to select the objects, and it means select the viewport. Enter. Okay, let's see what happens when we plot this. Okay, you only see the hidden line showing up once you do a plot. Okay, so preview it. Just having a wee think about it. Okay, so you can see this is done as a X-ray. These are hidden line up here, and can't zoom in too close, but this one is as it was. Okay, but we've got a colour kind of creeping in here that we don't really want to see. Okay, the line weights are also a bit mixed up, so we'll exit that. Okay, and what we want to do is have a CTB that's where everything is black and everything is a thin line. So we can edit our standard black and colour, we pick every colour, okay, tell it you want them all to be black, and you want them all to be 0.05 millimeters. Save as. Now I'm calling my CTB all thin. Okay, save. Don't replace it. I do yes. Save and close. Change the CTB to all thin and preview. That's looking a bit more interesting. Okay, this doesn't look so good. The X-ray version. We'll see what it looks like when we do the final plot. Okay, we'll let it go and have a look at that one. Okay, so exit that for a second. Apply to layout so it remembers the change of CTB. And OK. It's asking me for a file name. So let's just call this breakdown. And we'll have a look at the final PDF. Oh, that's interesting. So it's having the two different viewport styles overlapping there has caused a pretty big problem. Oh, no, it hasn't. Let's zoom in, get closer. No, that looks okay. Looks a wee bit strange there. We've seen to go got a bit of a shift there. Don't like that. Okay, so we'll close all those tabs. Okay, let's change this one back to hidden line. Okay, so remember the sequence, it's MV, enter, shade plot, hidden, and then select the very first viewport and enter. Okay, let's plot that again. Save over the same file, called it breakdown. Overwrite it, yes. Let's see, that's looking a bit better this time, isn't it? Okay, so mixture of hidden and not hidden seems to be the better way of doing it. Yeah, we're not getting that kind of stagger. Okay, but these are hidden, and then when we get to the glass, if I zoom in, it looks glassy because we're showing all the lines. Looks more realistic. Okay. So I didn't put any annotation on that because it's what you're more than likely going to do is kind of incorporate this maybe into a report, or not necessarily use it as A1. Okay, so we've printed it to an A1, so it's got chance to be shrunk. Okay, it doesn't work the other way around. If you printed it to an A4 and then enlarged it, the line weights will all be pretty heavy and pretty ugly. Whereas if you start with very thin on a big drawing, it's easier to condense that and use it smaller. And then you would annotate that using whatever height of text you need for the report, instead of binding the text into the drawing. Okay, but it's quite a versatile way of setting up the axonometric. And finally, bear in mind, none of this is to scale. Okay, this is kind of like a hybrid isometric. It's not 30 degrees in any. It's not scalable in any way. Okay, so don't con yourself that you think it is. Okay, I would just ignore this and just say it's not to scale. It's a breakdown drawing. It's a workshop drawing. It's not to scale. Okay, good luck with yours.